So I wouldn't consider myself to be the best Mario player in the world. Ready. I need to be ready! But I'd say I'm pretty decent. But not every Mario game is very easy to me. And in some of them I collect more game overs than rejections. And trust me, that number is big. But which one of them is the most difficult mainline Mario game of them all? Let's find out by putting them into a tier list. Like an old friend of mine used to say, let's go! Super Mario Bros. 1. Super Mario Bros. 1 is obviously legendary and I think a quite good challenge. The levels are well made and for the time it got released it has some brilliant level design and creativity. The levels overall can be a bit hard though, especially if you play it on original hardware. Cause the controls of this game, they didn't age well. I think they actually might be the worst in the entire Mario series. So the clunkiness of the controls make this game a bit more challenging, and especially World 8 and the castles in this game are no joke. Overall I'd say it's a good challenge. Good start. Super Mario Bros. Lost Levels. Immediately put that thing in the highest tier. Immediately. I was 6 years old when I first played Super Mario Lost Levels. No need to say that I didn't get very far in that game back then, right? If you think you are brilliant at 2D platformers but haven't played this game yet, this game will destroy all your hopes and dreams. Honestly, I still never beat that game, if it wouldn't be for the rewind function on the Switch. So, can't beat it in the OG version. For real. Super Mario Bros. 2. This game is a little bit harder to compare to the other games in this list so far, because it's that different from the other games. I mean, we all know the fact that this is probably because this wasn't even intended to be a Mario game in the first place. I think the controls of this game are already way better than the first two Mario games, and especially for an NES game, they are actually really decent. Boss fights aren't as unforgiving as in other Mario games, the levels are much more focused on platforming, and you can even play as Luigi or Peach, which makes the game even a bit easier. Both of these characters have the ability to jump differently than Mario, with Luigi jumping higher and longer, while Peach can even float. So if you play as them, the game turns out to be even a bit easier than it already is. So I put it on the easier side. Super Mario Bros. 3. This game hits the perfect sweet spot for me. An awesome challenge without ever feeling frustrating. The controls of that game are awesome and the difficulty of the game comes alone from the amazing design of the levels with a lot of creativity. The platforming of the normal levels plus the fights against the Koopalings in that game make it a really awesome challenge. Especially World 8, and to me personally the tank levels are no joke anymore. Almost too difficult, but right on the edge for me. Also, this has to be one of the greatest Mario games ever, in my opinion. Super Mario Land. I've seen a lot of people who consider this game to be actually easy. Maybe I'm just worse at Mario games than I thought I am, but to me this game actually isn't that easy. Yes, it is no lost levels and also not as hard as Mario Bros. 3, but the controls and the fact that you have to start the entire game over when you lose all your lives make it quite a challenge. The game is really short though, and if you're able to master the controls, you can get through this game really fast. I'd say it is the same difficulty as the original Super Mario Bros. Super Mario Land 2. This one has to be a little bit easier than Mario Land. Again, the controls are way better, the game has a really helpful new item with a rabbit suit, and I never got a game over while playing this game. I still wouldn't put it in the easiest tier though, because we obviously have to look at the entire game, and there is the last level. Wario's Castle. On my first playthrough of the game, I probably spent 50% of the entire gameplay in that castle. There's no checkpoint, the challenges keep getting harder, and especially the fact that you fall down into the lava and die in there as a one-hit make that level a really good challenge. I'd consider this level to be the only hard level of the entire game though, but only because of the last level I can't put it in the easy tier. So it is a bit on the easier side. Super Mario World. The first Mario platformer on the Super Nintendo. And you really feel the step to the new console. The handling of Mario is smooth like butter and feels amazing. Also, I think the learning curve in that game is crazy good. Because the game starts off actually quite easy, but later turns out to be quite a challenge, especially in the last few worlds. Also, the special area is quite difficult, but let's take a look at the main game. You can actually kind of break the game with the cape item and skip half of the levels. So let's keep that in mind. I think for casual gamers, Super Mario World has the perfect difficulty. This game is a good challenge, but a bit more easy than Super Mario Bros. 3. What would y'all say? Super Mario 64. The first 3D appearance of Mario. But is it the hardest game so far? I wouldn't consider 64 to be the hardest Mario game, but definitely still quite difficult. If you're more of a 2D platforming fan, like I am for example, you need a little time to get used to the controls. I gotta say though, that especially for a 93D platformer, the controls of this game are out of this world great. Once you play that game for around 30 minutes or so, you really know the buttons. And controlling Mario feels really easy and natural. The actual difficulty for the level design is actually quite hard to put in a tier list. Cause I mean, basically everyone can decide which stars they want to collect and not. If you only collect the less challenging ones, this game could be here. If you collect the more challenging ones, it could be here. Maybe even here sometimes. Okay, let's say you take an easier route, you'd still have to do the Bowser fights and the Bowser levels, which are definitely high up on the list. So, let's say a good challenge. Even almost too difficult sometimes, at least for your boy right here. Super Mario Sunshine. I'd say the difficulty of Sunshine is quite similar to Mario 64, but not entirely. In Sunshine we're obviously blessed with even better controls, but also have some new challenges by learning some new moves for FLUDD. Also some missions are crazy again. I'd actually say that some of the platforming in this game take a little more precision than Mario 64, so I'm gonna put it in almost too difficult. And if you would want to 100% that game, it got to be up there with Lost Levels, cause some of the extra side quests, especially like the blue coin missions, they are so random and they are really frustrating sometimes. But just as in any percentage walkthrough, I'd say just almost too difficult. Super Mario 64 DS. This game got so much attention in the Nintendo YouTube community this past few years, almost like no other Mario game. And all of that basically just because of one question. Is it actually a bad remake or a good remake? While I don't want to answer that question, at least not today, I can understand that some people are not that happy about the controls. Because of the D-pad on the DS, you're just able to walk into 8 different directions instead of walking around 360 degrees. I actually grew up with the DS version, so to me the controls feel kinda natural. Cause I got my copy of Mario 64 DS when I was like 9 years old. And I got my N64 with Mario 64 only at my 16th birthday. At that point where I got the N64, I haven't played the DS version in like 4 years or so I never quite noticed the difference at first. But nowadays, I actually kinda do. Not as much as some of you all probably who grew up with Mario 64, but I still do. I think the challenge is quite the same though. They added some levels, but they're not harder or less hard than in the original game in my opinion. And they added the Silver Star missions. I think they are a bit easier than most of the stars in the original game, but not that much to put it below Mario 64 for the N64. New Super Mario Bros. DS. My favorite Mario game of all time. Probably because it's that easy. The first 2D Mario game after around 10 years. And it's super fun. The worlds are brand new, the bosses of the game are some of the most creative in the whole series, and the flow of running around in that game is awesome. I think the difficulty is actually perfect for a 2D platforming Mario game on the Nintendo DS, because it's suitable for basically everyone. It's a lot more easy than most of the other games, especially easier than the earlier released 2D Mario Bros. Titles. Also the controls have to be like the best for a 2D Mario game so far. As I said, the game's actually quite easy though, and I'd even say one of the easiest games of the entire Mario franchise. Even the final world plus the final castle isn't that difficult, and there's also no special world or special levels that are crazy hard. So I think this is the first your grandma could beat it tier of the video. But I also think that that's the exact reason why this game is so popular to this day. You can just grab your DS and have a super fun time with that game no matter your skill level. And even though this game might be no true challenge for experts of the franchise, I'd say literally everyone still enjoys it at least a bit. Mario Galaxy. The sweet smell of nostalgia. Mario Galaxy was my first entry into the world of 3D Mario games. And to this day I think it's actually quite a good challenge. I replayed some of the game recently and I gotta admit that I totally respect the creativity and the craftsmanship of that game and the new gameplay mechanics. The same that I said about Mario 64 goes for this game right here when it comes to difficulty. You can decide your path through the game, so depending on which galaxies and missions you are playing, that game could range anywhere between almost too difficult and a bit on the easier side to me personally. So let's say it's a good challenge. 100%ing that game would obviously be a lot more difficult, but overall I'd say Mario Galaxy has a great challenging difficulty for every huge Nintendo fan. New Super Mario Bros. Wii. With this game right here we're back on the easier ones of the series. This game is again perfect for every age and every skill level of gamers. The controls are a little more Yankee than the DS version I'd say from a personal perspective, but not by much. There's new power-ups like the propeller suit, which if you keep it, make most of the levels actually even more easy than a lot of levels in New Super Mario Bros. DS, I'd say. On the other hand, the bosses in that game are definitely more difficult than the ones in New Super Mario Bros. DS. The Koopalings are not as difficult as they used to be in Super Mario Bros. 3, but still a good challenge. The final boss in that game looks also wild, but it's actually a lot more easy than from what I remembered as a kid. I recently replayed that game on stream and I gotta say that I almost first tried that level. And I got surprised because I had it in my head as like the craziest level ever. Overall, I'd say it's slightly more difficult than DS. Easy. Super Mario Galaxy 2. If I'm not looking at the storytelling and the atmosphere of this game, and to take my boy Yoshi aside for now, in most of these galaxies and missions I would say we are still playing Galaxy 1. And don't understand me wrong, that's a good thing. A really good thing. The same goes for the difficulty of the game. They managed to make it a perfect successor in terms of the skills that someone needs to play this game. You don't have to collect everything again, and because of this, you can kind of make it your own difficulty. I'd say that the majority of the stars in that game would be a good challenge though. But again, if you want to 100% that game, it's almost too difficult, if not able to beat it because of that last level. The last level of World S, the so-called Grandmaster Galaxy, is absolutely crazy and one of the hardest levels in the entire Mario franchise. But that alone, it's not gonna get it into a more difficult tier than Mario Galaxy 1. A good challenge for this game as well. Super Mario 3D Land. This game was so hyped when it got released. I saw all the gaming magazines talking about that game and praising it, with scores reaching up to 100. Which is actually crazy because I think from nowadays perspective, this game is overlooked and very underrated. This game is quite similar when it comes to difficulty to a lot of the other handheld Mario games so far, even though the entire game looks and feels entirely different to all the others. This game is actually really easy. The bosses are not too crazy, not even the final boss, even though I love the final boss in that game. The collectibles aren't hidden as crazy as in some other games, Sunshine, and the controls are so easy to deal with. If someone would ask me what is the perfect 3D Mario to start your 3D Mario journey with, it's gotta be 3D Land. You will never get frustrated, but you will still have a really good time with it. Your grandma could beat it. New Super Mario Bros. 2. This game gets a bit too much hate for my taste. Yes, it's not as great as the first one to me as well, but it's an absolutely okay game that can totally make your day a little bit better by playing. I'm not gonna lie. The difficulty is definitely on the easier side again though. The levels are quite unchallenging. Especially the tower boss fights, right? They feel, yeah, it's a nice homage to Super Mario World, but they're quite underwhelming and a little too easy. The castle levels before the boss fights are a little more challenging than in most of the other new Super Mario Bros. Games though, but that's the only thing that's more difficult. A lot of the ideas in that game are the same as in the in the game before that. If we're gonna take a look at the DLC levels though, that game is wild. You could download packs back in the day, and there was packs from ranging to okay to nightmare mode. But I'm just here to look at the main game, right? I had no internet connection back in the day, so I couldn't download it, okay? So main game it is, your grandma could beat it. The packs, I think I couldn't even beat it. Why do I say like I would be the champion? Like if you ever see me playing Mario Maker, you know I ain't the champion. Go. There we go. Now I'm locked in, guys. But, you know, if you have some levels for me, let me know in the streams. New Super Mario Bros. U. Haven't we talked about that game already? No? Oh, I just forgot that Nintendo kind of released 3 times the same game just with a different title. My good old Nintendo. New Super Mario Bros. U is a great game. Especially if you wouldn't know that there is like 2 to 3 games before that feel somehow the same. The game is harder than all of the other ones though. There's some quite challenging levels in this game, and the Koopalings are back to prime NES difficulty in my eyes. I would say that New Super Mario Bros. U is the most difficult of the New Super Mario Bros. Series. But still not difficult, so it's a bit on the easier side. Super Mario 3D World. Super Mario 3D World feels amazing, looks amazing, and the difficulty is great. Yes, I'm a fan. The controls are precise, the levels are medium to easy, the boss fights are super creative and medium difficulty. The cat suit is so much fun and such a great new addition, but also make a lot of levels a lot more easier. Also, just like in Super Mario Bros. 2, you can choose Peach again and she can float, so that makes it even more easier. So depending on which character you're choosing, you also kind of choose the difficulty of the game. So I'd say it's one of the easier games in general. The special worlds, and there's a lot of special worlds in that game, are a lot of fun though, and a good challenge actually. Especially the last level took me probably like 200 tries to beat it. It's right on the edge for me between super fun and a bit frustrating. The base game is quite easy though, especially for a 3D Mario, so I'd say easy. Tough decision though. Super Mario Odyssey. With Odyssey we have the same situation like with all the other open world Mario games. You have to collect a certain amount of moons, but can't decide which ones. I'd say most of the moons in Mario Odyssey are easier to get than stars in Mario 64 or Galaxy, and also easier than the shines in Sunshine. Especially if you're not trying to accomplish impossible jumps or 100% that game, I'd say this game is actually easier than Mario 64, Mario Sunshine and Mario Galaxy 1 and 2. And if you even know how to do crazy movements and long jump with Cappy, this game is probably even a bit more easy for you. A lot of bosses and challenges actually look really intimidating in this game, but are actually quite easy if you take a look into it. Still, that game also offers a great challenge to expert Mario players at some points, but in general I'd say it's a bit on the easier side. Super Mario Bros. Wonder. I think while creating Mario Bros. Wonder, they didn't lay their focus that much on trying to make a difficult game, but rather making something different to all the other new Soup games we've got beforehand. And oh, they delivered. You again? And you're still not a PNG? I can't believe that. But as I said, the difficulty of that game isn't that hard. Most of the Wonder sections are a fun gimmick for you to smile about, but nothing that gets you sweating in front of the TV. The badges make that game even a bit more easy, so it's definitely a very doable game for everyone. But then they make like in 180 with that last level. Cause the only really difficult part of the game is the last level of the special world. Cause that level, nightmare. It's to me the hardest Mario level ever. In every Mario game ever. Like, no kidding, even more difficult than Lost Levels. If you did beat this level, hey, congrats. You are a champion in my book, for sure. In general, without the special world, I'd consider this game as easy though. And that's it. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and please consider to like and subscribe if you like content like this. And I hope to see you again next week for the next video, or in some of my streams. Maybe we can play a little Mario Kart together or Mario Maker. And until then, God bless you, stay healthy. Bye guys, thank you so much for watching.